This is one of the most exciting videos I've ever done. I'm here with Richard, who's the CEO and founder of SimLab, and we're both sat in a rig because we're going to do something I've never ever seen before. So SimLab are bringing out their direct drive wheelbase. Richard's very proud of it. I think it's going to be extremely competitive. The big sim racing DD wheelbase of the moment, it has been for the last few years, is the SimuCube 2 Pro from SimuCube. So what we've done here in the attempt to do a very fair and blind test, and I'm going to be really clear and honest with you, I have no idea which is which. One of these rigs has a SimuCube 2 Pro, and one of these rigs has the SimLab direct drive wheelbase. And I have no idea which is which, but we're going to explore what a sim racing direct drive wheelbase is, the subtle differences that maybe we don't often look into because there's a lot of marketing about direct drive wheelbases that isn't necessarily connected with the driving experience. So anything else you want to say, Richard, before I start driving here on one of the wheelbases, which I don't know which one it is?
Well, I think the only thing I want to say that I know which one it is because we set it up.
Yeah.
But we wanted it to be as neutral as possible, you know. So there's both wheelbases, no filters applied.
Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, I'm not paid to be here. SimLab are paying for my flights, but this is not a paid sponsorship or anything. It's a really exciting opportunity to do a test like this. So should I start driving, Richard, and we can see what's what? So we're in Silverstone here in, is it the F3 or?
F3 car, yeah.
F3 car.
On your request, we loaded up.
Oh, I've already spun it.
Uh,
So the first thing, Richard, is that you said we've turned off all filters, really, as I understand it, on both wheelbases.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, a lot of us are going to be used to in softwares on various sim racing wheelbases using all the filters and maybe presets.
Right.
Is that something you, I don't want to say agree with, but what's the difference between the wheelbase stock and then these filters we run on top? Is that part of the experience or is it artificial?
The way that I look at it is that the game outputs a force feedback signal.
Yeah.
And that is what the physics come up with, and it's outputted in to the force feedback signal. And you know, everything that you put on top of that or alter, I wouldn't say straight away like you're diluting the force feedback.
Yeah.
But it's not the representation that the game developers intended. So.
Okay, so let me try and break that down and maybe try and find some analogies. So you're saying that the game is outputting the force feedback signal to be interpreted by the wheelbase.
Right.
The developers, like here on iRacing, they spend a lot of time, I guess, developing the output signal. But if you're going to run filters on top, you're going to be messing with it.
Right. And you know, in my opinion, which is obviously my opinion, I want to experience the force feedback as it's intended by the game. You know, I don't really want to suit it to my liking. I want to take it as it is. In the basics, a force feedback signal is a torque vector. So let's get that out of the way, like right away. We're talking about basically a torque vector.
Let's talk about the wheelbases now, the one that I'm on anyway. I can feel a lot of road feel, I would say, in terms of the little bumps at Silverstone. And then the characteristic of sim racing direct drive wheelbase I understand, which is as I'm loading the tyres, I'm kind of getting that resistance in the wheel. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that because you've driven, you know, I've come here today and seen your Mercedes racing car. When you're driving a car in real life, you're getting a lot of sensations in terms of G-forces, feeling really the weight transfer. The way you feel oversteering the car going light can, I think, sometimes be a bit different.
It's completely different, I would say. It's you know, it's sim racing in that regard is like a big compromise where all of the feeling and communication that the car, you know, everything that it wants to tell you needs to come through the steering wheel. Yeah. And in real life, you really don't have a lot of force at all at the steering wheel. Yeah. So, but that's just a compromise, and you know, I don't think that's necessarily a problem.
So to explain what I was feeling here at SimLab HQ on this wheelbase was very haptic-y, so I could feel kind of, you can see the road feel, very three-dimensional feeling of the road, very grainy. When I was going over curbs, it was vibrating, and when I was on the road, it was vibrating, and that vibration was going into the load when I was turning into a corner, which felt very kind of
it felt very involving, actually. These are my honest thoughts, as I promise I'm going to be honest with you. It felt very involving to feel all of this haptic-y sensation. The wheelbase and the wheel was like rattling a little bit. I could even hear it. You can hear it when I'm a bit quiet. And it was a busy feeling. So if I was going to try this wheelbase fresh, I'd be like, wow, okay, I can feel stuff happening. But the sensation in the corner was a little bit muddied by the haptics I'm already feeling as I'm approaching the corner. So it's not like I'm feeling very, very light on the wheel and then I turn into corner, I get a lot of load. It's kind of a lot of haptics is happening, then I turn in and I'm kind of already in the corner phase.
What I would say is I don't know which wheelbase is which yet, but it's certainly not overpowering the force feedback, even though I know the SIMUCUBE 2 Pro and the wheelbase SimLab are bringing out are both very powerful wheelbases.
Right. We put it at a level which is something that you would set it yourself if you would be driving. You know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to put it at max force.
Now, I would say it was very clear to me when I was trying this wheelbase that it's high quality. Like, it's a high-end wheelbase. Whichever one it is, if it's something you're going to end up with in the future, you're not going to be disappointed by it. It feels very premium. I was able to kind of, really feel and dial into the car, even in this unusual setting with like the speakers. I couldn't quite hear it. I'm racing with someone else, but it felt like high quality. It's obviously an extremely high quality rim as well. But we're talking about small details and actually having this ability to not speak, to tune in. You can see I'm concentrating. I was really trying to think, what is good force feedback? Do I want clarity in terms of, do I want to really feel my tyres only in the corner? Or do I want immersion? Do I want road feel? Do I want to feel like, oh, I'm travelling at speed by how the road feel changes? And this isn't something we think about a lot. So super, super interesting. I was able to ask Richard some more questions.
Cool. Well, I was able to do some laps there and kind of like, I think, feel the force feedback on this wheelbase. So I'm interested to see what I may feel differently on the other one.
Right.
Should we swap then?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Swap.
Okay, so I've swapped rigs now. Again, I don't know which is which. I don't know which is a SIMUCUBE 2 Pro, which is a SimLab direct drive wheelbase. It's been really interesting speaking with Richard so far about the filters, etc. So we're going to drive here for the first time. So I'm going to drive a little bit actually, and then I will. But it feels very different to me already.
So this wheelbase felt very different off the bat. Now, the first thing I noticed is that when I was going down the straight, I didn't have the same rattly, haptic-y, 3D feeling going over the tarmac and then like the entry curbs. Like, I really noticed this was a lot less, significantly less prominent. I also noticed that when I turned into the corners, I got a surge of force feedback that kind of really let me know immediately and it's in a sustained way how much grip was available to me in the corner. So had I turned in with too much speed, had I turned in with not enough speed, I could have carried more. This is what I was feeling. And this was really interesting. I also felt like I was faster on base B. Now, I don't know whether that's because I jumped into base B and I wasn't chatting. I was kind of like, I'm going to go straight in. I was a little bit warmed up. Whereas on base A, I'd been chatting and kind of driving at the same time. But I felt and was faster on base B. Now, I've gone all over the world, actually, and spoken with all of the wheelbase manufacturers. I've reviewed pretty much all of them. Acertech, SIMUCUBE, Fanatec, Moser, Logitech, Conspit, like loads of the brands. No one's gone into as much detail with me on force feedback as Richard has. And I know from the early part of the conversation, he was not the biggest fan of filters. So what I didn't know is, was base B using filters to exaggerate, emphasize the force feedback during the corner? Or was wheelbase A using filters to enhance the kind of road feel? And I just didn't know. But I feel like it's very subjective still. Some people are going to enjoy feeling the road more, and some people are really going to enjoy that clarity in the corner and that precision. But I did feel faster on base B, which was super interesting. I wasn't expecting to feel faster on one base or the other.
Okay, so this is the really important question, and all credit to SimLab and Richard for putting this test together, because, like I said, I have no idea which is which. And obviously SimLab have spent a lot of effort into bringing their direct drive to market.
Right.
Very soon. SimuCube 2 Pro, we know that it's like right at the top of the industry. So these are my honest thoughts. I felt like on this direct drive wheelbase, I was very in tune with the haptics of kind of like curbs and almost like a three-dimensional sense. And I felt like, and this is a bit subjective, I felt like when I was loading the car through maggots, Beckett's or cops, I could feel kind of small sensations changing. However, in this wheelbase, I felt a very strong, when I turned in, I felt a very strong kind of like load that I felt like I'm more used to. So that's just my honest thoughts. What's the situation, Richard? You know, you set this up.
Okay, want to disclose it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the direct drive SimLab.
Okay.
This is SimuCube.
Okay, so to explain, so on the SimuCube, I felt like I could feel these kind of like little like
road texture.
Road texture and things like that. And on the SimLab, when I turned in, I could feel this consistent like. I turn in through cops. It's like I can feel it. I'm kind of in there. Does that make sense to you? Or
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, I think that's one of the differences. You know, I think the reason for that is that SimuCube uses a two-pass filter.
Okay.
So that effectively means that details are filtered out of the broader ups and downs. Let me put it like that, and are offset on a separate, and then you can amplify it. So that is what's happening with this, and what we don't do that. We obviously, you know, it's half year in development. Our force feedback firmware and software, and obviously also it's not really intended by the makers.
Yeah, by the output of the game.
Yeah, by the output.
So it seemed to me now I know which is which, and what you've been saying that when I turn into a corner here, very quickly I know what my kind of grip is. Is that something that you, without the filters and everything, in that?
I think it has to do with, I think there's a difference. I think our force feedback, the motor feels a little bit smoother and a little bit more natural than the motor that's used in SimCube. Obviously, you know, it's my words.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I think our force feedback is more explosive. You know, and that comes from the fact that it's already so hardware technical. You know, we're working with a 1500 watts power supply, which just packs more power.
Felt with, now I know it's a SimuCube, as I'm going over, I'm getting these kind of like almost haptic elements as like I'm hitting a curve, whatever. But when I turn in, it's the SimLab where I turn and like bang, okay, that's my grip level. And I kind of feel it through. I think I was a little bit faster on the SimLab. But I wonder if this is where we get into subjectivity. Some people will like, I'm driving along and it feels kind of like haptically, whereas when you're driving the real car, that's not really that relevant or not what you're feeling per se. The big load is when you go into the corner and you feel it. And
right, and I think, you know, and again, we need to keep it neutral, but I think the difference between the small details and the really big details, so for example, hitting a curb, is different with ours. It's bigger. It has, the dynamic range is bigger.
And do you think also, in terms of you set these at the same Newton meter range, I imagine, like in software, but do you feel like this kind of peaks very consistently? Like that was my feeling, in that it's able to.
It has a lot of overhead. If that's what you mean.
Yeah.
So still, I think it's running at 40% or something at the moment.
Yeah.
And that would so just also to make that clear, you know, this is the 26 nm base, which is, and this is the SimuCube Pro.
Yeah, which is 25.
25.
But you're also bringing out a 39.
39.
Yeah.
We're still working on it.
Yeah.
So basically, what we've done, you know, with the direct drive is we started from scratch, and you know, we took the latest technology basically to select our components. So one of the big differences is that we use DSP chipset. DSP, and DSP is a chipset which is made and developed for live applications. And low latency applications. Yeah, so we believe that, you know, the torque control is ultra smooth.
Yeah.
Which for a big big part, you know, governs the feeling of the wheel.
So again, and I'm just being completely honest here, and again, all credit to Richard for setting this up. It feels like to me like if I'm going into cops on the SimuCube, I'm feeling some curves. Maybe this is a 2-pass thing or whatnot. I'm feeling the bumps, and then I go into corner. This is like an extension of what I'm feeling. Whereas a SimLab, it feels like the cornering phase really starts immediately as I load the tyres meaningfully, and then I feel that load, and then like through cops, I can feel like, okay, what's the car pivoting? And then I exit the corner phase and I get ready for the next corner phase. And, you know, I do a lot of stuff on Gran Turismo in terms of their filters, people using all sorts of equipment. Some people really like to feel this stuff. Some people want to feel it in the corner. The performance really is in the corner, right? Like, when can I get on the power? Right. Is the back end coming around? But I don't know if you have any further things you want to say, Richard, about the SimLab DD now we've done this test that people can look forward to if they're kind of in the market for a DD or they're looking to upgrade maybe to a higher Newton meter. Why should they consider the SimLab?
Well, I think, you know, I could say that we have the best direct force feedback. You know, I can make these claims, but ultimately the market needs to think the same. So I'm very confident about it. It's going to have data pass-through integration, an open ecosystem, so nothing proprietary.
For the wheels? For
connecting wheels, connecting wheels without USB cables. And it's hitting the market end of the year. And
you can also use a Mercedes AMG SimLab wheel on it as well.
Yeah, right. It's prepared internally to be wired.
Well, thank you so much, Richard, for putting this test together. It's been genuinely fascinating, and I think there should be more of this in the industry, to be honest, because otherwise things, I think, can be a little bit subjective, and I would say, and this is a failure on my part and also other YouTubers, really, I would, to be honest, not as much scrutiny on what are the actual differences maybe, and kind of having the opportunity to do this really lets us dive in. So I'm really excited to hopefully do more of this in the future. If you've got any questions or anything you've liked about this that you want to see in a new video, let us know in the comments. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.